So I am really glad to be doing this demo for you today. Appreciate you all taking time off to learn more about this printer. Really means a lot. I've been in the graphics industry for 30 years. I've been with HP about 5.5 years. During this demo today, I'll be actually running the printer for you. I'll be running it live, putting boards through it, you know, all different types of artwork. And I'll be working with Fernando. When we switch back to Fernando, he's going to be talking about the technology behind what it is that I'm printing. So he's going to talk about all the stuff happening inside the printer, the technology, the inks, printheads, all that good stuff. You see me now, I'm on the output side of the printer. The next time you see me, I will be on the input side of the printer and getting things ready to go. So to start this off, I'll hand it back to my friend and colleague, the great and powerful Fernando Garcia.
Oh, no, nothing powerful about me, Dan, but our Latex R series does offer very powerful solutions when we compare to UV and solvent-based printers, and that's what we're going to be seeing today. All right, so thank you, Dan. All right, before we get started, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing some housekeeping for Zoom so that we get the best experience possible for today's demonstration. So to do that, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go over some Zoom settings. So at the top of your screen, you'll see a green bar that says, right next to the green bar, you'll see a view options. You want to click on that, you'll see a drop-down menu. And on that menu, you will see side-by-side mode. Make sure that is selected, that you have a check mark next to it. What that's going to do is it's going to split your display, your screen, into two areas. The left-hand side, you'll be able to see whatever we share on our screens. And on the right-hand side will be the presenter. The next thing, on the top right-hand corner of that same screen, there will be an icon that says speaker view or gallery view. If it says speaker view, go ahead and click on it. This will be ensure that whoever's presenting will be on the right-hand side. We can always toggle back to gallery view at the end of the presentation for Q&A. And then last but not least, now that you have your screen split in two areas, take a look at the middle. You'll see a vertical line, and in the middle, you'll see like a little handle. You can grab hold of that handle with your mouse and drag it left and right. This is so that you can maximize or minimize whichever area you want to focus on. Okay, with that said, let's get started. Now, some of you might be familiar with latex, some of you may not, but we know latex was introduced over 10 years ago, and this technology is here to stay. Early adopters of this technology, they been waiting with anticipation for HP to introduce a flatbed with this very same ink technology, and that's because latex offers a lot of versatility, productivity, right, ease of use, and most of all, very friendly to the environment. And that's exactly what we did close to 3 years ago. We launched the R series. R stands for rigid, it stands also for roll. And this is a product that incorporates everything that we learn about our latex technology, all of our low, mid, and high volume printers, right? Everything I just mentioned. But it also incorporates the versatility and robustness of our FB flatbeds. I'm talking about the UV, FB 550, and 750. So it gives you the best of both worlds. Now, in terms of value propositions, right? Here we have under quality, we know latex is water-based, meaning it's green, right? Green, friendly to the environment. Now with the R, we've introduced a new formulation of this latex ink specifically for this very unique product. And we added more pigment to this ink, meaning we now have more vibrant colors. more vivid prints. And now when we print on rigid media, a unique touch and feel, very similar to an offset litho print, very smooth. And of course, now a wider range of applications and media versatility. In terms of productivity, we'll be talking about certain key features about the printer, but one specific is the productive build system. We'll cover that in detail shortly. Of course, you can print unattended flexible media, even overnight. And it all comes with our ecosystem of HP Print OS, which allows you to monitor your production, monitor your fleet of printers or printer, all done remotely via your web browser or even a mobile app from anywhere in the world. Oh, of course, HP service experience and remote monitoring. And for the first time ever, we're now introducing HP Latex White Ink, a very opaque, very glossy white when compared to other white systems in the industry for large format. And best of all, automatic maintenance with relatively zero waste.
Maintenance.
All right. Now, the printers that come in two sizes. We have the R1000, can print up to 64 inches in width. The R2000, bigger sister, up to 98 inches in width. Now, both these printers received the Product of the Year award at STIA last year, as well as the Innovations Award at ISA. Both printers can print on rigid media. With the help of the support tables, we see a feature here on the R2000. We have input-output tables to help manage media. And of course, we can print flexible substrates with the help of the roll-to-roll accessory. Now, when it comes to substrates, everything that you're already accustomed to in the world of large format, we can print on. That's because we can print up to 2 inches in thickness. So we can see various examples here, as well as flexible media, right? Anything that you print on the solvent-based technology, as well as our previous generation of latex products. Now, one thing we don't have to ever do on this printer is mask the bed, or the belt in this case. As you know, static beds at the very beginning of a production day, or even between jobs, depending on the complexity or layout of these jobs, the operator is forced to do bed prep, right? Bed prep setup. And in a lot of cases, if the substrate is not utilizing all the vacuum zones, the operator is forced to mask off any open zones. The reason for that is because these devices have only one source of vacuum. In other words, one vacuum pump. And so to prevent any loss of suction, they're forced to mask off these open zones. So with our system, right, we have a very smart system. And we're going to go ahead and use our virtual app. It does a better job in explaining this technology. Well, we're looking at a rendering of the R2000 here. As we move it around here, I'm going to go ahead and dive in deep in here so we can get the inside of this belt. Now, the belt system here is like no other. For one, it's manufactured in a way where it was built in a way to allow vacuum or that vacuum air to flow very well, very efficiently through this belt. I could literally print an 8.5 by 11 sheet of material without having no need to mask off or tape off any open areas. The other thing is that this belt is designed to be printed onto. In the event that you want to print edge-to-edge borderless printing, you can print on the belt. One thing we all know about latex is that we print a very, very thin thickness of film ink, right? On average, anywhere between 3 to 8 microns. That's very thin. Unlike UV, we don't have no buildup. If you print UV on belts like these, or even a static bed, you're going to have buildup over time, which means more cleaning more often, right? Because that's going to affect your quality.
He just needs to go to rehab.
All right, here's an animation of this belt. You'll see some arrows shortly. These represent the vacuum pumps. We have 3 vacuum pumps total, driving different vacuum zones. So again, very robust system. Here we see the animation of these vacuum zones. They automatically engage depending on where the media is traveling, where it's at. This is all done with little intervention by the operator. The printer knows. And then our engineers did their homework because this build has no lateral movement. What does that mean? It means that other builds in the industry, other systems, they are considered a consumable. Over time, these builds have to be replaced because they lose tension, therefore affecting print quality and registration. This build was designed to be for the life of the product on the R series. So no need to replace it, of course, unless it gets damaged. And then unique to our technology, unique to HP and Latex technology, we have a built advanced auto correction system. It's the very same device that we use on our other roll-to-roll products called the OMAS over there. On this product, it's called the OBAS, Optical Built Advanced Sensor. It's a little 3-inch device, sits underneath the belt, has over 50 patents by HP. And it monitors the movement of this belt precisely to give you the best quality possible, regardless of which print mode you choose. Okay, so that is our build system. Here we see a bird's eye view of this R2000 build. We have different zones here. We have the input driven by one vacuum pump, the print zone here driven by a second vacuum pump, and all these multi-zones here driven by a third vacuum pump. Now, whenever we compare print systems, we look at throughput. We look at how many boards an hour, how many sheets an hour, how many square feet an hour one printer does against another. However, we fail to recognize that the throughput or speed of a printer is determined by the speed of the operator, as well as the type of workflow. On the R series, we have a workflow called hot loading. Now, hot loading is a way to produce a lot of copies per hour by loading, printing, and offloading simultaneously in parallel. So let me explain. When we first load the sheet of the first sheet or material, and that sheet's being printed, the printer is going to prompt the operator to load the second sheet, even while printing the first one. When it's time to print the second sheet, that very first one can now be collected, and the printer will prompt the operator to load the third sheet. Now, this is done continuously, and we do this with the help of the input tables that help stage the media. We also have output tables that help collect the media, so we can do all this nonstop. When we compare this to a traditional flatbed workflow, operator has to load the sheet onto the bed, determine if there are any open vacuum zones. So now we have to add tape. That's going to be downtime. Hit the print button. The gantry now leaves its home position, moves across the bed, starts printing. And until that gantry doesn't go back to its home position, the operator cannot collect and load the next sheet. So obviously this process is going to take longer, more time to produce a given run. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go live, and we're going to ask Dan to show us how this process works. Dan?
Thanks, Fernando. So as promised, here I am on the input side of the printer. This is on the input side of the R2000. So we have the belt here that Fernando was talking about. Our transport belt is 98 inches wide on the R2000. On our R1000, it's 64 inches wide. Right here, you see a large 23-inch touchscreen. This touchscreen is how we control the internal print server, or the IPS. Everything is done here. All the controls for this printer are through this screen. So I want to share this screen with you so you can get a better view of it. Do this here and share. So hopefully now you can see my screen here, my touch screen. You can see that that's my finger, that little bouncing ball running across there. So you can see how we're operating. this page that you're looking at now has a lot of information on it. If you see here in the upper left-hand corner, we have substrate. So that's where the operator will choose the substrate. Next to that, we have our ink cartridges, right? Next to that, our print heads. So essentially, that's our consumables. What I'm going to do in this segment for you is I'm going to do a mock production run. This way, you'll see, just a slice of what it could look like in your production facility. We're going to run some corrugated plastic, run some foam board, choose some files, and mix it up a little bit here. So when the operator walks in the morning, let's say you're running 1 or 2 shifts, whatever, come in the morning, the printer is not printing, it's sitting in idle. So it's actually sitting in a low power mode using about the power of a light bulb. There is on the screen here, there is right under Printheads, it says check and clean. The operator hits check and clean, and that starts an automated process in the printer where it will check the print heads. It wipes them, checks them, and makes sure that the printer is ready to print, so you have a perfect print right out of the gate. We have a sensor that's counting those print heads so that if any are not firing, it will write the algorithm and create the compensation for those missing nozzles, we'll say. That process is all automated. It happens in as quickly as 7 minutes, but remember, the printer is doing that, not your operator. So there is no opening doors and wiping print heads and preparing the printer that way. You hit check and clean, and now the operator could be doing something like maybe getting your boards ready to print, staging them here on our input table, or maybe pulling files in from the RIP and bringing them here into the queue to get ready to print, or maybe like having a coffee and talking about the game last night, whatever. That's not my business, but the printer's getting ready to print. Now, once that check and clean cycle stops, we're ready to go. This is where the operator will choose. The first thing you're going to do is choose the substrate that you're going to load. In the case of the R2000, 98 inches wide means I can run a 4x8 sheet in portrait mode, right, across like this. But remember, the Plus also comes with extension tables. Table looks just like this one, but it's 37 inches in depth. So I could also take 4x8 sheets, 2 up in portrait mode, right? Put 2 of them up. So 2 up, of course, that's multi-up printing. So we're going to demonstrate here multi-up printing with a popular 18x24 size corrugated plastic. You're all familiar with this, I know. Once I choose the substrate and tell the printer to start, the process you're going to see is a light will come on here in the loading zone. So you're going to hear this today. You're going to hear the loading zone, and you're going to hear the printing zone, and on the output side, the curing zone. We're going through all that. Here in the loading zone, the light will come on, it illuminates it. And what that's telling the operator is that there's an alignment bar back in here. This alignment bar spans the full 98 inches. That will come down and meet the belt. So it meets the belt, so then the operator can then just take the piece, boom, put it in right up against that alignment bar. The alignment bar is perfectly perpendicular with the travel of the print heads. What's cool is that alignment bar is also our media thickness sensor. So the next step will be is our automated, you're going to hear that word a lot, automated vacuum system is going to engage here in the loading and printing zone and pull the media in. Then the alignment bar is going to come down and measure the thickness of the media. What's really great is it's measuring the thickness across the entire span, whether I have one small piece in there, multiple pieces, one large piece. When that alignment bar comes down, it has multiple sensors, so it's going to choose the highest point across that substrate, right? So your print head rides right above there for a really great print. Also, what's going to happen is you will see the gantry or the carriage that holds all of the print heads. That has an optical sensor on it. You'll see that come by and scan the boards. If it was one board, it would see one board. If it's 2, 3, 4, it'll see however many I put in here. I don't have to tell it how many I'm doing. It'll automatically locate each board, the location of each one, and the width of each board, all automatically, and then it's displayed here on the screen. Really simple. So we'll get that started. If I go here into substrates, talk a little bit about this. This is where you can see the last thing I printed was some Gilman Brothers Infinity. It's a brand of foam board, right? So it remembers what you printed last time. Here you can see the 3. And that's really convenient, especially in production people. When you run a lot of 4x8s, right, that's popular. And you pull that back up, it's the same 4x8 that you used last time. You don't even have to go through the measuring process. You could bypass that, say, just tap on the screen, don't measure, and it'll automatically just bring the board in, save all those measurements, you could start printing. In this case, we would go into our substrate types. Here we have many different categories of substrates, and these come with the printer. Well, a lot of them come with the printer. So for example, if I go to even the recently used here, you can see that the last 10 that you use often will be right here. And that's easy to get to. But maybe if I'm going to my corrugated plastic here, I can choose the one that I want to print. And this is where I would load it. So this Interpro corrugated plastic, that's one that we've developed. But if you have a substrate that says generic, like this generic plastic corrugated, that came with the printer. So we have a whole bunch of generic settings in here on foam boards and vinyls and all the common materials, PVCs, that you can get started with right away. And they work really well. During training, you're also shown how to create your own from scratch. You know, you might get a new substrate from IT Supplies, and they might, if they don't have the settings for it, there is a process you can go through here and set it up yourself. It's really straightforward, really easy. One other thing though, I want to make sure I don't pass over is here on the bottom of this page, you see this, there's a gray bar that runs right across here with a bunch of shortcuts and access to even, you know, more information on our IPS. Our substrate library, if I open that up, this is where when you create a new substrate, this is where it would live. But also, if you go to our online search, this gives you access to our media locator, which is in our Print OS cloud-based print management system. And this, those of you that have latex, you're already familiar with this. Those of you that do not, you would simply choose the printer that you have, your R1000, your 2000, and any medias in there that have been qualified, been certified by HP, it will be here. So it'll be your all your media settings. When I talk about media settings, I'm talking about vacuum and temperature and airflow, things like that. Whatever it takes to get that piece of material through the printer successfully with the cured print on it. But also there will be color ICC profiles as well in a lot of these. So it depends. We refer to that as our OMS. I find one that I went to IT Supplies and I got this new board, and here it is in the media locator. I could download it directly to the IPS, and then it becomes available to me here in my substrates that I can load. So really powerful, really simple, and a huge time saver. So let's go back and get this printer running. Our plastic corrugated, I'll go ahead and choose this. And when I hit, we'll hit load. What's happening now is the printer is coming up to temperature. The settings are you know, activating what needs to get ready to run this corrugated plastic. What I'm going to do is I'm using alignment pins here. I'll tell you why. So if I was just going to print 4 boards across here, I don't need the alignment pins. I could just put the boards in there and printer will do the rest. It'll find them, drop the artwork right on them where they're supposed to be. But we have alignment pins as well that come with this printer. And those of you with FBs, you're familiar with the alignment pins, but these are bigger, better, badder, right? And you can, of course, you would bring this bar over like this, slide it down, and it's where it meets the belt, just like you see here. Also, there's a small there's a ball bearing on the bottom here that will roll. So you could keep them down and they'll roll along that belt, causing no damage. And also what's really cool is underneath here, there's a spring-loaded lock. So if I was to bring this down and like lock it under, so it's keeping pressure on that belt. So really thin media, right, won't slip underneath these pins. Okay, that's great, Dan, but why are we using the pins? So we'll start with this. If I'm loading my sheets, the alignment bar came down. You see the light is on, of course. The alignment bar came down. I'm putting that one. We have a left justified bar right here. That's our 0 point, and that's where I'm putting that first sheet. While I'm at it, I will mention way over here on this end, we have a right alignment bar as well. Reason for that, people always ask double-sided printing. So this printer does an amazing job on double-sided printing. If I was going to print, let's pretend this is a 4x8 sheet, or it doesn't matter, even if it's this piece, but I could put this piece in, and I'm using, if I'm left loading, of course, I'm using this edge, and I'm using the leading edge as my guides, right? So left and leading, and I print that side. Bring the piece back around. I want to print the other side. I flip it this way. Now I'm taking that same edge, same two edges, and I could load it right loading, okay? So that you have the exact same references. Back to the multi-up. So the alignment bar came down, and I'm putting the pieces in, and this is where I'm using the pins, because what we're also going to show is not only multi-up, but we're going to show it's called hot loading. And now with FBs, FB 500, 550, 700, 750, you're familiar with the hot loading, but it's gotten way better, a lot more automated, a lot more options. So you're really going to like it. At this point here, I can.
Dan?
Yes.
Dan, Steve
Yes.
Kotar's here. Hey, we're
Steve.
still seeing the IPS screen. Is that camera, you need to stop sharing that? We're not seeing you.
No, it's, go ahead, Fernando, go ahead.
Steve, it's probably because you have to configure your zoom.
Oh, okay.
If you go at the top, go to View Options.
Yep.
And click side-by-side mode.
Okay. Got it.
And then on the top right-hand corner, Speaker View.
Got it. So that was me. I asked asked one of the other people on the call if they saw the same thing, and they did. So maybe other people had the same issue.
Probably for those of you who joined late, we had already gone over the Zoom.
Okay.
So again, at the top of your screen on your Zoom application, click on View Options, and then make sure that side-by-side mode is selected.
Yep. Perfect.
Okay, since you interrupted us, we're gonna have to start from the very beginning.
Hi,
Just
my name is Dan Donnelly. I'm here. No, thanks for bringing that up, Steve. That's cool because you helped out some other people on here as well. So I appreciate that.
All right, Dan, go ahead.
And we're back. So now, in order to load these pieces, I can hit feed. There's a touch on the touch screen here. I can hit feed. There's also a mechanical button right here on the console. And we also have the foot pedal, which is really, really convenient. Right now, that automated vacuum is engaging. It's pulling the media into the print zone. And now you'll see the shadow come across here, or Fernando might even switch to another. Yeah, there's the camera right here, right? Our camera, our picture-in-picture. And that's the gantry that's passing over all these pieces and measuring each one with that optical sensor. When it gets back home, you'll see on the IPS, on our screen here, you'll see a representation of the pieces. You'll show the measurements and the location of each one with green check marks, and that means we're good to go, okay? Now, the next thing we'll do is go right to the queue management. The queue management is where all of our files come in from the RIP, so Caldera, Onyx, whatever you might use, through a hot folder. It populates here in this area here, and it's also categorized by media. So in this case, if I go to my corrugated plastic that I had loaded here, it will allow me, of course, to drag any files that are labeled with corrugated plastic here to put here onto the to print to these pieces. If I was to choose like a different media like palboard or PVC and try to drag a file into here, even if it was the correct size, it would give me an error saying that there's a mismatch. On the screen here, as we started, you can see that I have these two sale signs on here. Well, I'll show you how that starts out. This is the file as it comes over from the whatever RIP you happen to be using. You'll get a thumbnail of it here, so you can see what it looks like. It also tells you the name of the file, how many copies. So if in your pre-press they're deciding there how many copies that we're running so that your operators don't have to think about it, that information's here. What mode you are, 6-color, 4-color, white, 6-color plus white, that information will be here as well. Your various print modes, 3-pass, 4-pass, 6-pass, all of that is here. Whatever you choose in at the RIP, so whatever you choose in pre-press shows up here by default. That's really cool if you're setting up your business to run that way, if pre-press is making the decisions and all that information is going out to your production floor and the operators are just loading and printing. But what I do like about it, having been in many situations in the past where maybe the file didn't come through correct, it came through at a 3-pass, but I knew we're supposed to be running this at a 4 or 6-pass. I can change it here. So I don't have to go back upstream. Maybe I'm working second or third shift and there's no one here in pre-press. So this continues, it allows me to move forward because I can still access all that information, including quantity. The only thing I can't change here is size and orientation. All right. So when you see 2, what I can do is I can also change my copies right here on the screen. So if we said 2, but I wanted to do 4, I could change that right here and I could have 4. So I don't have to even go back into the file to change it either. Okay. So we'll go back to 2. I do want to show this. So that's a job there we're going to print 2 of the for sale signs, but in our mock production run, we have a few different signs down here. We have different designs and different quantities. So what I can do is I can select all of them that I want to print and simply drag and drop. And this is what's really cool because it will auto-populate based on the media that is sitting here in the position that it's in. So as you can see, I could do different quantities and different artwork. I'm just using the same media and of course the same print mode. And this is what is going to be known as hot loading here, right? Once it starts printing, we'll see the sale signs, the beer sign, and that sports sign, we'll call it. That'll be the first row that prints. And then you're going to see the printer is going to allow me to then, as Fernando pointed out in that last slide, it's going to allow me to load the next 4 sheets of corrugated plastic where the printer never stops printing. So to get that going, I could hit print. But before I hit print, one final thing I want to say is HP is always doing upgrades with their firmware. This printer is here over 2 years, and it's not the same printer that it was when it arrived here 2 years ago because mechanically it's the same, but the features that are on here are much more robust. And that's done through firmware updates, which is really great because a firmware update will be, maybe it'll be a new print mode, a new layering mode, whatever that might be, increasing the speed. That was a common one. That will come automatically to your IPS as well. So when a firmware update is available, the operator, there'll be an alert on here telling the operator it is available. You do not have to install it. You can install it, at your leisure when you're ready. You might want to wait till the end of the day, whatever you want to do, and you could download it download it here, and then have those new features. So one of those new features is what we call our print production tabs. So in this case here, you're looking at Interpro corrugated plastic right here in this area. But right behind here, there's another tab. I'm going to click on that tab, and you're going to see that's the Gilman Brothers Infinity, right? That's the foam board. So what we're able to do here is this foam board it's at a different orientation. It could be a different size. It's going to be different thickness. It has its own settings, right, for heat and vacuum and airflow, the OMS settings and ICC profiles, has its own. But we're going to also run that in this hot loading sequence. So meaning once I start with my print here, so I continue. Once I say go ahead and print my corrugated plastic, it starts the sequence of printing this first tab of the corrugated plastic, however many rows I might have, and then it will automatically switch to the Gilman Infinity, in this case to the foam board. Can you still hear me, Fernando?
Yes, I hear you fine.
Okay, all right. And this will automatically switch over to the foam board. So you'll see that I'll be able to, while that corrugated plastic is still printing, I'll be able to load that foam board right behind it. This is a huge savings in time. I can create up to 8 different tabs on this IPS. So I can virtually set up maybe the next shift if I wanted to. As an operator, while it's printing, I could be working ahead and creating these tabs. I can have these tabs print in such a way that one is printing right after the other. But if for whatever reason I have in production, I don't want it to, I just want to set up the tabs, I can also say, don't continue with the next one. I could have all that artwork set up and ready to go and decide when I want to actually run it. Okay, so really, really powerful. The way the printer works with the operator, right? Is you see a lot of idle time, a lot of, you say idle time, but a lot of free time where I'm not working on the printer. The printer's doing the work, right? Allows me to do other things. With the corrugated plastic, we're going to run that at our fastest print mode, which is 3-pass. 3-pass, we can run 27.4 4x8s an hour. So almost 27.5 4x8s an hour on the R2000. And we could run up to 14, little over 14 4x8s an hour on the R1000. And that's at our 3-pass mode. So this is our fastest print mode. When it comes time for the foam board to print, you'll see that it's actually changing to a different print mode. It's called the 4-pass. And we're just doing that to show you all of the options that you have, kind of bundling it all into this one demo. I'm getting the media ready, of course, on our staging table. On the output side, we have a table as well that will hold the pieces as they come out of the curing unit. At this point, the alignment bar came down. The light is going to come on, signaling me to load the next pieces. And here's where the pins come into place, because I want to put the pieces back in the right place. I don't want the printer to pause and measure them again, because we just want continuous printing. The alignment bar already raised up, and the media is on its way in. Well, what had happened there was, back to that automated vacuum system, 14 different zones here on the R2000. The vacuum actually shut off here in the loading zone to allow me to place those pieces in there. Of course, it never shut off in the printing zone. You know what that would mean. So that automation is fantastic. Those 14 zones are operated by what's called Poppet Valves. And those Poppet Valves, they can sense whether there's media above them or not, or whether it's air pass. If it's air pass, they will just close. So auto masking, right? Your operator's never masking off the belt. What I'm going to do next is going to put the foam board in. So this was, again, one of our latest innovations with our firmware updates. And again, same idea. the alignment bar will come down, the light will come on. But not only that, in this case here, is you're going to see the beacon is going to flash yellow, and there's also an audible beep. And the reason for that is that maybe I'm on the other side of the printer. You know, I might be somewhere else in the shop doing something else. And this way, if I'm not on this side, maybe I'll hear the beep. If not, I'll certainly see the yellow beacon flashing, and that's signaling me to come and put the next media in here. This will be 4-pass on the foam board. Again, different thicknesses, different settings. The printer is going to hold it right here though. The flashing light means, Dan, go do something else. I got this. Because we're going from a 3-pass to a 4-pass, remember when Fernando was talking about the belt and the OBOS, right? Well, that precision belt, well, the movement, of course, on 3-pass, the belt is moving a little faster than the 4-pass. So obviously the belt starts here, the belt ends all the way on the output side, right? Well, it can only move at 1 speed. So the printer will hold these boards here, no vacuum is engaged, but the alignment bar is down. And once the 3-pass exits the curing zone, right here, the vacuum will engage, the bars will come up, and it will now we'll be printing at 4-pass. Really, really cool, innovative, and easy. I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'll meet you guys around the output side. We'll take a look at these prints. Here we are. Look familiar, right? Saw these on the screen, staring at that for a little while. All right, latex. What do we love about it? So this is 3-pass. This is our fastest print mode. Do you notice how smooth those solids are, right? Look how rich those colors are. No light banding like you get with UV, especially at the fast print modes. Keep in mind, every print mode on this printer is sellable, right? Like no excuses, no, oh, I have to view it from across the street, okay? So latex, no issues with there's no banding, super smooth, litho-like feel to it, no smell, right? Because it is latex ink. It's healthy for the environment. It's good for your customers. It's good for the environment inside your shop, for your employees, right? Because there are no VOCs, no ventilation required on the printer, right? You can't go wrong. Also, I like to show this illustration of my friend and colleague, Fernando Garcia. And I think IT Supplies has a giveaway. They're going to give these away to the first 10 people who sign up. They get a Fernando illustration. But anyway, again, look how smooth it is, right? Imagine, with latex inks, people talk about wrapping cars. You can stretch it, right, without losing the ink color. I mean, we dominate the wrap industry. It's one of the main reasons. Well, printing to rigids, that's just as important, because like maybe I'm doing bent easels, on acrylic or PVC or something, or maybe I'm even doing cartons like B-flute and for packaging. There's not going to be any cracking because that you still have that stretch of this ink. Also, forgive me, Fernando, but I just want to show everyone how tough this ink is because of that. With your adhesion, right? No issues, no cracking, right? No chipping. So that's important because right now we're printing we're cutting then printing, but of course printing and cutting is usually the most profitable way to go, right? Maybe 4x8 sheets and cutting them afterwards. You don't have to worry about if you're routing this on metal or you're vibe cutting it or die cutting it. Afterwards, your ink, you're not going to have any issues with ink chipping or cracking because of how tough it is. We do it here all the time. I want to show you the foam board signs. They're coming out now, but just so for the sake of time. I'll pull them out and show it to you though. But this is what we're printing on the foam board. So this is 4-pass. When I showed you that 3-pass back there, I did forget to mention something, that I'm printing with only 80% ink there. So you saw how rich that color was, the large gamut that we have with this ink. So it's only 80% ink, how rich that was. So I'm printing fast, I'm printing cheap. This is 4-pass. So I could print 20 4x8s an hour at 4-pass at this quality. So you can see I'm at 90% ink now. I could definitely run this at 3-pass 80, but this is here to show you the different methods and what they look like. 4-pass 90, 20 boards an hour, 24 8s an hour on the 2000, 10 4x8s an hour on the R1000. Super smooth. So imagine if you were going to laminate this, maybe you're going to laminate it because you know, a customer wants the sign to be a dry erase board, or, you know, they want it to be some kind of graffiti, anti-graffiti, whatever the reason is that you need to put, or that the customer would want the laminate. You could just laminate straight to this, and you're not going to get any of that silvering that you get like on the edges of UV ink, right? And it just doesn't look good. Plus, you have to have specific laminates for the UV, but not so with the latex. So think about that production-wise. That's one of my favorite things. If I'm printing boards, if I'm printing roll-to-roll, maybe I have some other roll-to-roll latex printers, and now I have this. Any campaign I run, whether I'm doing banners or vinyl or floor graphics, and then over here I'm printing directly to corrugated plastic, PVC, etc., right, without mounting. I can just print to it. Everything's going to look the same. When it goes to that customer, everything's going to match. You're not doing that, the UV dance we used to call it, saying, yeah, it looks right. It looks like, right, it looks good, it matches. So that's another headache that's gone. The next segment, Fernando is going to talk to you about the ink technology. And with people who already have latex, there are some changes here though. So it'd be good to pay attention to some of the stuff he talks about with the R series inks. So come over here and I'll show you where the R series inks are on this printer here. This is our ink cabinet, right? Our ink shelf, and this is on the output side of the printer, so very simple to access. On the R2000, our cartridges come in 5-liter containers. On the R1000, it's 3-liter containers. We have a quick disconnect, and that allows me just to pull the cartridge right out. Very cool. This is how you would receive it if you went to buy your ink from IT Supplies. It comes in a recyclable box. It has our Eco logo and Green Guard certifications on here. No limitations to how much graphics you could put inside of a school or a hospital. Fernando will talk about that. Labeled clearly, of course, black. Here we have black, cyan, magenta, right? Yellow, light cyan, light magenta, 6-color. Well, what's really great is I cannot accidentally put the light cyan into the black slot, for example, because these are keyed. These individual connectors are physically keyed, and it will not connect. So that protects your printer. Also, each one of these cartridges, when they sit here in this slot, behind this slot inside the printer, we have what we call an intermediate tank. 750 milliliters of ink, so of the same color. So each color, right, has one of these. That's important because now I can hot swap. So if I'm running production on my IPS, it's going to show me that my ink goes all the way down to 0. I want to zero it right out, but I still have ink in the tank, right? Because this box is feeding this intermediate tank, which is then feeding the printheads. This will run down to maybe about 30%. If you don't put ink in here, you can only go so far. It will stop. It won't run dry because we don't want air in your lines. Again, another safeguard for your equipment. With all that said, on the R series inks, for those of you that know latex, we do have optimizer. And one other thing though is overcoat. So overcoat is something that already exists in your latex ink, but now for the first time it's been taken out so that we can control it. We're going to talk about that, and that's really cool. Lastly, we have our white, right? Big deal. First time we ever had white ink for latex. This is 3 liters. So on the 2000 or the 1000, it's 3 liters. Notice it has 2 connectors on it though, and that's really important. And we're going to cover that in my next segment. Fernando?
Thank you, Dan. All right. Well, Dan, I don't like the fact that you ruined my picture. Now we're going to have one less picture for the giveaway. All right, so before we get started deep into the ink technology, we need to compare our system to what is known as the standard in the industry. What is the standard? Well, UV ink, of course. Now, UV curable ink does present some challenges, however. For one, they tend to smell. That is because they're solvent-based. We all know at high speeds, bidirectionally, lower resolutions, we get something called the lawnmower effect, also known as gloss matte banding. Depending on whose formulation of ink you might be using on your UV system, you also may be limited to color gamut or color capability. Of course, that comes with also, depending on whose formulation of ink, challenges with adhesion, right? Chipping, cracking, peeling off when cutting. Also, what if you have multiple ink technologies on your floor, in your production floor? So tricolor matching across these different technologies also can be daunting and challenging. In laminating UV, like Dan mentioned earlier, you might inherit something called silvering because of its rough surface, those peaks and valleys. So our competitors force customers to make trade-offs. Yes, of course, they can sell you an ink designed for great adhesion at the expense of not having good color capability, good color gamut. What if you want glossiness, right? What if you're looking for a specific sheen? Or what if you want to get into thermoforming? Now you need a specialty ink that has elongation. Or how about vehicle wrap? Now you need an ink that has flexibility. It's rare to find a UV ink that can offer all these benefits, all these features in a single ink set. And if there is, it's going to come at a higher cost. So why do we want to switch to latex? Well, for the first time ever, the R series delivers unprecedented quality, never seen before in rigid media. For one, we added more pigment to this new formulation of ink. That gives you the highest gamut ever compared to our previous generation latex, compared to UV and solvent-based printers. We also pay a license to X-Rite, one of the leading manufacturers in color tools. On the R series, we have built a built-in I1 spectrophotometer next to that print carriage to give you and allow you color consistency between campaigns, projects, right, and prints. And of course, we respect the properties and the integrity of the media, giving you the look, the touch and feel, and appearance you're looking for. So what is new with this R series ink? Well, for one, we took that very successful latex ink we all know, for those of you who are familiar with it. We reformulated the ink to cure at a lower temperature. This allows us now to print on medias that are more heat sensitive. Things like 015 styrene, polyethylenes, polypropylenes, right? A lot of thin plastics. That expands the a wide range of media versatility now. Of course, we maintain the same other properties like optimizer, of course, the pigment. But something new we did with the R is that anti-scratch agent or property that we have on our third generation roll-to-roll products. It is now a separate component on the R series. We call it overcoat. It's got its own cartridge, it's got its own printhead. And we did this to allow the end user to configure the right durability for each application. If you want more overcoat, you could go to the preset and increase it. What if you want to laminate? Well, guess what? You can turn it off and not have any overcoat and go straight to lamination. That's going to translate to ink savings as well. Now, I still find customers that still ask me today, customers that I've been using latex for a while, and they ask me, how does it work and how does it compare to UV and solvent-based technologies? Well, here's a quick rundown of that. For one, our ink is water-based, water being the vehicle. We add pigment, that is the color. And then we have other elements like polymers and binding agents. This is what we call latex. Think of latex like a latex glove because it has elasticity, not latex paint like your house. We mix all these elements together and we get our ink. Now, our goal is to keep that ink suspended in flux. We don't want it to separate and sediment. So to do that, we add a anionic property to the pigment. This is a negative charge to the pigment. This is going to keep all these elements nice and suspended, keep that nice viscosity. Now, I'll also understand that HP is not just a technology company. We're also a chemical company. And we also manufacture all the fluids, right? The ink. We manufacture our patent technology on the Thermoprint head. And we also manufacture the printer. So we understand all these elements vertically to give you the best solution. Now let's talk about Optimizer. Optimizer has its own cartridge, its own print heads, and we print that first onto the page. We also add the opposite. We add a cationic property. This is a positive charge to the Optimizer. Now let's talk about what Optimizer is not. Optimizer is not a primer because we're not flooding the media with it. And it's also not an adhesion promoter. There are a lot of substrates that we don't need Optimizer for that matter. The purpose of the Optimizer is specifically for speed and quality. So let's look at this graphic here. When the ink gets printed on top of the Optimizer is going to act like a magnet. So it's going to help us immobilize and isolate those pigment particles. Look at the end of the graphic here. Notice how now the pigments are fixed to the page, right? And the rest of the elements, the water, the binding agents, and everything else sits on top. This is going to allow us to cure, evaporate, dry more efficiently at a lower temperature at faster speeds. So essentially, Optimizer is designed for speed and quality. And then we're going to finish the print with the overcoat to give it that nice protection. Even though we're printing with 3 layers, that is Optimizer, color, and then the overcoat, we still maintain the properties of the ink, meaning a large color gamut. If the media happens to be glossy, your print is going to look glossy. If you print on media that's dull and matte, your print is going to acquire those properties. It's going to look matte. What if we print on something metallic, like a brushed aluminum, or maybe a cardstock that has a foil on it? Well, your ink is going to look metallic as well. Now, when we compare this to UV, look at the graphic here. UV leaves behind a rough surface, and that's because UV does not evaporate. UV cures instantly under the UV lamps, leaving these peaks and valleys. Now, this is what contributes to that matte gloss lawnmower banding effect that we all know. Because when the light refracts, it's going to refract differently from these low and high spots. That doesn't happen with latex. Latex prints really thin film of ink, 3 to 8 microns in thickness. The benefit here is no orange peel, no coalescence. We maintain that flexibility, no chipping or peeling when cutting. You want to go straight to lamination, you can. And we maintain that environmental design that HP latex is known for. Look at this graphic here. This represents our color gamut. The blue shape here on the outside is the Latex R series. We can now hit up to 77% of the Pantone colors. What does that mean? It means being able to reproduce those hard to challenge, difficult corporate branded Pantone colors compared to other technologies. Look at the small gamut here. This represents the Canon 261, 258 inks, which is a formulation of ink designed for ink adhesion, right? For more adhesion at the expense of not having the color gamut, the good color capability. So we're gonna give your business, yourself, your operators what matters most. and that is the highest certifications in the industry, like Ecologo and Green Guard Gold, so you're not limited with applications. That also means no need to ventilate the product, the printer, because there's no harmful VOCs. Better for you, better for us, better for the environment. So what about white ink? We left this for last because this is a big deal. When you ask customers that are using UV ink, are you using white ink? Most of them will say no because it's a pain. It requires a lot of purging of the printheads, so a lot of waste. And it's a mess, right? Maintenance is not easy. We found after now having the R series deployed now for close to 3 years, we found that if you ask 100 customers that have UV technology, 95% of them will say they're not using white ink. Ever since the introduction of the R series, recently we made some statistics show that some studies we made, out of all the R series that are installed now, about 96% of them are using white ink. Why? Because it's very easy. For one, our white latex ink has no photo initiators in it like UV, meaning it'll stay white over time. It's not gonna turn pale yellow. Two, it's one of the glossiest whites in the industry for large format, and it is a true white. It's very neutral. And best of all, it has automatic maintenance with relatively zero waste. So let's ask Dan to show us how this white system works. And we're live. I think you're muted.
All right.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Fernando.
You're good. Yep.
All right. So the white ink for your operator, it's exactly the same. Everything you saw me go through with our loading process, nothing changes as far as pulling in jobs from the queue. It's just jobs that have white ink information in them, right? What I'll do is I'm going to run some black PVC with white ink on it. But let me just show you something a little about our white ink. The white ink has those same characteristics as our color inks. Very, very smooth. We have a high opacity right here on the 260 up to 260% ink, right? But also really fine gradations, which look really great for frosted glass look, window treatments, things like that. For the opacity, that comes into play because we do have some layering features on here that Fernando's going to cover in a couple of minutes. What's important to remember is that with the operator, when an operator is printing with white ink, we can do white only. We could do white with lay down white, put color on top, or we could lay down color, put white on top, you know, say for second surface on a clear acrylic. So we call that overflood, underflood. We have sandwich modes. But production-wise, the operator only has to handle it once, no matter what those combinations are. Meaning, I'm loading it on the input side, it's going through the printer, and it's coming out the other side complete. We're never reintroducing that print to try to get registration. It's all happening automatically. This happens to be one of our printheads, at least a model of one. And with the white printheads, there's 2 white printheads that are in this printer. And we have our color printheads alongside. So with the color printheads, they're like 1, 2, 3. They're bicolor printheads. Then we have 2 printheads that are staggered in relation to the color printheads. That's what allows the printer to be able to either lay down white then color or whatever combination that we're doing. So important thing to remember. Also, let me see if I can, there's not too much glare, take a chance with this one. I'd like to show you, put at an angle here. So this is a clear acrylic, right? Printed second surface, but you could see, the gradation, right? That ink, how fine that is, all the way up to the opacity. So really, really, really good stuff. It has the same, remember our white ink has the same characteristics as far as the stretchability. So for those of you doing thermoforming or maybe do some really cool things with vehicle graphics, maybe printing to color vinyl, things like that. So who knows? Really great. So it has the same characteristics 3-year outdoor and stretchability as our colors. I want to show one other layering. This is a clear polycarbonate or clear plastic, and this is actually a sandwich mode of an image, and then white ink, and then an image. So we call that day-night. So maybe in the daytime, you know, this is what this sign would look like, and then because it's backlit at nighttime, right, you can see the other image that you get. So you can see those blues in there and the yellows to create that like evening look to it. That's actually a second image that's on this sheet. Think about it. So 2 images were sent to the printer. We chose 3-layer sandwich mode, and the printer automatically registers the image number 1, and then the white in between, and then image number 2. So really powerful stuff. Again, these are things that come with those firmware updates, and of course, this is what it's included now. Fernando has one slide. He's going to show the up to date today what we have available that come with the printer as far as the white options and layering.
All right, thanks, Dan. All right, real quick, let's cover the print modes. So the first one's under flood. This is typically used for media that is not clear. You're going to print white first and then color on top. The second print mode that's available on the R is the overflood, typically done on clear substrates, whether they're rigid or flexible, like a cling or a plexiglass or acrylic. You do this in reversed or mirror image, where you print color first and finish it off with the white. Then we get into the spot mode. Spot mode is one of the fastest print modes that allows you to print in a single layer, nor the white or the color overlap each other. You could also print white by itself. Then, of course, we get now into the sandwich modes. Dan showed us that 3-layer, also known as the day and night, where you're going to have color, white, and then color again. They can be the same image to give that extra layer to compensate for the light source, or they could have separate images and have a different effect like the one Dan showed us. And then the blackout mode, the 5-layer, where we print color, white, black in between for that blackout, and then white and color again. And with this feature, it allows us to have separate images, completely different images, and also take advantage of that blackout. If you want to do in and out signs, for example, at the entrance of a doorway, this is typically how it's done. All right, so those are the different modes. And let's go back to Dan. And we're live.
So I have spot white printing now. You'll see them come out in a few minutes. What I want to show you here are actual samples. So this is also black PVC. This would be considered our underflood because we're laying down white and then putting color on top. But look at the opacity of that white. It's pretty crazy. Most people think that this is black ink on a white substrate. So clear acrylic, printed one side with a flood white. So you can see the vibrant colors you can get. Of course, it's printed only on this side. On the back side here, we're looking through the clear media. And this is really great for museum graphics, right? They call them, where you could put 4 standoffs in the corner, hang it on the wall. You could also do backlit with this because of the amount of white. We make these here. We make these samples for the sales team. This, as you can see, this is routed out. So on this acrylic, so it's just a proof in the pudding there, right? How you're not getting, there's no chipping, no issues. We gang these on 4x8 sheets and cut them out all the time. Just imagine too, like the labor. If you are printing to vinyl, and then you're laminating sheets and trimming. First of all, you have to have the personnel that has the skill set to do it right with no bubbles, and but then all of that material, ink, vinyl, and labor is gone, right? Always one of my favorites. Literally go to a big box store. Well, let's IT Supply start selling lumber. Who knows? And buy a hunk of wood and cha-ching, turn it into money, right? But this is super cool and a big deal today. I mean, this feels like you can't feel it. You can still feel the grain of the wood, right? So it still maintains the integrity of the material you're printing to. That's a big deal. That's another level of design and products that you can make. But also think about high-end interior retail graphics and, of course, home decor, right? Because it's like a stain on there. You can really get creative. We put some white ink on there too, just to show it. But that one you can really get creative. You could charge a lot, and you can also sell it with that green guard. That's safe, no smell, safe for your environment to put in your house, right? It's win-win-win. This is a similar situation as that one, right? We're just looking at the integrity of the media, and this is a brushed aluminum. And here, there is no white behind the HP blue logo, or there's no white behind that little red rectangle shape, just to show that, if you put white behind it, it's just going to look like the color. If you don't put white behind it, you're actually seeing the metal. It looks like an anodized aluminum. And in this case, we just took some white ink and made a little cool, skyline in the background. Really fun stuff. We have to mention this is a hybrid printer. Can't forget that, right? We have to be all inclusive. And this is a flexible media. This happens to be a clear static cling. It has white ink on it, right? So we ran this roll to roll, overnight printing all night, cut it out the next day. What I like about this too is that it's light, right? When I used to use UV to make clear static cling and how to use white ink, the ink is heavy and it puckers, and it's an odd item. You can make it, but this has a much higher perceived quality. This is what Fernando was talking about with the 5-layer. I showed you 3-layer with that backlit sign, but this is 5-layer. So this is one image, white, black, white, and a second image. And that's so that it's opaque for doing, let's say, double-sided window graphics. Side 1, boom, side 2. As you can see by the reflection, it is printed only on this side. We're looking through this clear polycarbonate, and you can see it is opaque, right? Really great for push-pull signs, they call them, or like I said, large window banners with a different message on each side. When we're printing to spot, I'll show you this one. This is just spot color. Spot color, meaning spot white, white only. I'll get as close as I can, but the details are really, really impressive. This is a wireframe style image. We chose that purposely to show how fine our ink. We have 12 picoliter print heads on the white, 10 picoliter on our color. I'm sorry, I think it's 11 picoliter on the white. But you could still do fine 6-point text, maybe even smaller, and of course these fine lines. Also, if you just look at it this way too, just the details that you get in just an image. This looks like, almost like a photograph at night, right? And it's just there's only white ink here. People who come into the demo center swear that there's color in this print, but it's white ink only. So with that white ink, you have no limitations. You're going to, anything you design, anything you need to print, you're going to be able to do it. As these guys are coming out now, I want to talk to you about owning white ink. That's the problem or the pain point for people who want to get into white ink, and because they know they can charge more for it, do really cool things. Maybe they can even be a wholesale source for some people around their area for white, right? It's really great. But if you're not using it, you're losing it. Why? Because you have to purge the print heads, right? With white ink, you have UV print heads, you have to purge them to keep them healthy. You got to keep that white ink moving. So you have to come in the morning, you have to make sure you shake it. And then of course, whatever you don't use, you buy that ink, then you purge it down the drain, and then you pay someone to take that toxic material away. It's heartbreaking. So what HP has done is solve that. Remember I talked about the white ink supply with the 2 connectors? Well, we have something that's called Macrorecirculation. Macrorecirculation means I'm going to take this white ink cartridge, I'm going to put it into the shelf, connect it, and it's automatically going to start pumping white ink from this one bag is full of white ink. This other one would be empty when you buy it. We cut the back off here so you can see. So it's going to pump that white ink up through the printer to the print heads and then back to the other connector. So what's happening as one bag is emptying, the other one is filling, right? It's a slow process, about 8 hours, but it's happening behind the scenes all the time, automatically, keeping your white ink healthy and in suspension and ready to print when you're ready to print. On the other end of the spectrum here, we have where our print heads are, we have another key component to the macrorecirculation. And what that is an auxiliary print head. So as you see, this is an auxiliary print head. This is an actual print head. If you look at the bottom here, we have nozzles on this one. On this one, there are no nozzles. This does have a port that allows ink in and then back out the other side right in this section right here, but that's it. This is 3D printed by HP, very cool. Why is it so important? Well, I mentioned you have 2 white print heads, so this one white print head also comes along with 1 auxiliary print head. Print head number 2 also gets auxiliary print head number 2. So that when I'm done printing with white, so in today's mock presentation or mock production run, we ran the jobs. We ran some really cool, oh yeah, this is perfect since football started on this weekend. But we ran our white jobs and we said, okay, so now there's no more jobs today with white ink. What are we going to do? We're going to pull the white print heads out. In UV world, that's insane. That person would be fired, but not here in latex. So all the operator has to do is this. We come over to our print heads and I say replace. So I'm going to tell it that I'm taking these print heads out. Gives me access to lift the print head cover. If I slide this carriage over, what's really nice is the print head carriage just allows me to move it wherever I want. Very convenient. What you're seeing here is we have our 2 optimizer print heads that are on this end. Then we have our overcoat print head right here. We have our 3 color print heads. Remember, there's 6 colors, so there's 2 colors per print head here. And lastly, but not least, our 2 white print heads that are staggered in relation to the color print heads. Before I go on, I want to mention too, for your consumables, you have replacement print heads. These are user replaceable print heads. We have 8 print heads in here, but you only need 3 SKUs for your replaceable print heads. The reason is the optimizer is a specific replacement print head. Our white is a specific replacement print head, but the overcoat and these 3 color print heads, these 3 individuals, 4 print heads, can be replaced by a universal print head. Because Murphy's Law, if it was, hey, I have a black and cyan print head, but my magenta and yellow needs replacing, that's how it goes. So HP is thinking about you. So what we're going to do now is talk about, we're pulling out the white print heads and turn this into a 6-color printer. And here's how that goes. There's 2 latches here, 1 and 2. Pop open latch 1, latch 2. And down here, I have 2 cartridges. Cartridge 1, cartridge 2. You're getting the pattern? Printhead 1, printhead 2, right? Now, these cartridges, if I open this up, this is a capping station now containing an auxiliary printhead, right? So what I will do is I'll take out my printhead number 1, pop it out, put it into this capping station, this cartridge, and close it. Take the auxiliary printhead and simply drop it into that slot. Now I can come over here, I can open up my cartridge for the other printhead, pop that one out, that printhead out, and repeat, right? Put it here into the cartridge, take my auxiliary, drop it in this empty slot for printhead number 2, and I push the cartridge, the whole carriage home, close the lid, boom, and I'm done. It's now a 6-color printer. Now I have my white ink is offline. I can do macro recirculation because the white ink will keep circulating up to those auxiliary print heads. So I have that loop closed, awesome. And I'm a 6-color printer, so when I'm not wasting any white ink at all, 0. You can't beat that. I'm sitting here now with 2 print heads. I have them in these capping stations. That's cool. But, you know, we got to make sure that ink isn't going to dry out in here because I want to reuse these. This is where we come back to our offline rotation chamber. So here we have another, there's a pattern here, slot 1 and slot 2. Drop these guys in here, and I'll hit the button for dramatic effect. But what this will do is rotate 190 degrees every 20 minutes. So it's doing that automatically as well. Why? Because that's microcirculating the white ink inside of those 2 print heads. You could leave your print heads in there as long as you want. There's no expiration. They're in there. When you're ready to use them, you just take them out and repeat that process that you just saw. So when you now want to go back to printing with white ink, you simply put your auxiliaries in here, put your white print heads in there, and you're good to go. So that's the way to get into white ink, pain-free, right? And be super efficient and not wasting that white ink while you're exploring that whole world, right? So we'll send it back to Fernando. I think he's going to cover some Printhead technology. Is that right, Fernando?
That's right, Dan. Thank you. All right, folks, this is our ink technology. One set of ink to give you that versatility you're looking for. Different campaigns, different markets, different applications and substrates. So in regards to the printheads, our printhead technology, unlike UV, we don't have to constantly be cleaning it by hand. We have an automatic system that takes care of that. Also, our operators don't have to wear protective gear, right? You know, with UV, piezo technology, these printheads have to constantly be periodically be cleaned at the beginning of the day, between jobs, between production runs sometimes, and you have to do it carefully. These are very costly printheads, and some devices have more than 24 printheads at a time sometimes. So latex thermoprinthead technology, and we're looking at a picture of the printhead that Dan just showed us. It's a 4 1/4 inch printhead to give you a wide swath for productivity. We see the nozzle plate here with the different dies, and each printhead has, color printhead has 2 chambers to host 2 separate colors. This is known as the bicolor configuration. Each of these nozzle dies have over 2,000 nozzles per die, giving you a total of over 10,000 nozzles per printhead. And so in reality, we're giving you a true optical resolution of 1,200 dots per inch, regardless of which print mode you choose. So this revolutionary nozzle design produces the highest quality, the flawless gradients like you saw on the samples that Dan showed us, and the finest details. Now, how about never having to worry about purging ever again? New to our printer printheads, we now have something called micro-recirculation, right? Micro-recirculation. If you look at the animation here, our engineers were able to design independent individual micro pumps adjacent to each nozzle. So this means while the printer is sitting idle, these micro pumps are going to keep the ink flowing, right? Even while sitting idle, even prior to the drop ejection. This means that the printer can sit and come back, and you never have to purge and just go straight to printing. Try that with UV. That's not going to happen. So it turns into ink savings, of course. All right. Let's get now into the flexible media workflow. We're at the home stretch here. And for that, we're going to make use of our virtual app. So I'm going to switch to that. And again, this is a three-dimensional rendering of the R. And to get into the flexible workflow, these tables, the input and output tables, can be detached from the printer. And that gives you access to that supply spindle. You see picture here. And then on the output side, we have that take-up spindle. Now, these spindles are the very same design spindles that we use on our mid and high volume latex printers, the 3 meters printers, right? The Latex 1500 and the 3000 series, the 3200 and the 3600. What does that mean? These spindles have been injected with carbon fiber to make them really robust and hold a lot of weight, and at the same time, very lightweight for operators to handle. All right, so let's get into the different flexible media workflows. Starting with roll to roll, we have something called roll to free fall and tabletop roll holder. Before we get into those, let's talk about the anti-skew feature. This is something new. This feature at the very beginning, when an operator loads from the supplied spindle onto the belt, the anti-skew feature will automatically realign the flexible media for the operator. We don't want any wrinkles, any ripples traveling into the print zone. So this feature fixes that, even if the operator loads it crooked or skewed. In fact, you can configure this feature to run periodically during a full run in a roll. So that's pretty cool. The next thing is our roll to roll. As the name implies, you're going to be utilizing the supply and take-up spindle and design for long runs, unattended printing. In fact, you can print overnight. The operator can, at the end of the day, queue up a job, hit print, go home, come back the next day, and the job is complete, perfectly wound. It just works. And then our roll to free fall. Roll to free fall is basically first in, first out, or roll to floor. Designed for those urgent jobs that need to go to finishing. So as they come out, cut them. And notice also how we can print very close to the lead edge depending on the media. And then we have the tabletop roll holder. This is one of our fan favorites because you can switch very easily from rigid to flexible. But I'm not going to steal Dan's thunder, so we're going to let Dan show us how this works. So I'm going to stop share here. And we should go live on 3, 2, 1, live.
This is a hybrid printer, so we can do flexible media, of course. We're running rigids all day long. You saw Fernando mention that you can do a roll to roll, roll to floor. That's great. But a lot of times in production, you just need a quick changeover. Maybe knock out a couple banners in between running your rigids, or maybe someone's working on the wrap on a vehicle for you, or doing maybe printing wallpaper and they mess up a panel. Well, and you're already running your rigids. You could stop the rigids, go back to your flexible, run that panel, and go right back to your rigid. And that's done this way, right, with our tabletop roll holder. The printer comes with 2 of these roll holders. They just have these rollers on here, using that word a lot. On the bottom, we have a positioning pin. So you get 2 of these, and there are predetermined holes in your belt, in your table. You can set these roll holders depending on the width of your media. Now what I do is I'll feed the leading edge into the loading zone. I'm telling the printer that I'm using tabletop, and it will respond accordingly. It'll pull the media in, and of course, it will measure it, position, width, and get ready to print. That's really important because I'm just laying this up here on this table. It's not like I'm using edge guards left or right. So how do I know where this is situated? So instead of having to measure, the printer does it automatically. So very quick, very easy. Also keep in mind that not only just for convenience and speed and turnover during production, but also with your core. You know, we require a 3-inch core on these printers. And if this core is a smaller than 3-inch, maybe it's a 2-inch core, Obviously, it's not going to work. This still allows you to be able to print media by putting it on the tabletop. And even probably a little bit more common might be a damaged core, right? Maybe even over time, if it got crushed and it's just tough to get onto your spindle, this is the way to get it done. So definitely a fan favorite. The printer does an amazing job at it. I'm going to meet you around to the output side now, and we'll take a look at our curing unit and our print on our banner. So back on the output side, I mentioned the printing, the loading zone, printing zone, and here we have our curing zone. So this output table just simply rolls away from the printer. Our input table does the same thing. There are two latches. There's a small latch right here, and there's a hook right here, latch on that side. You pop the latches, you can pull this away. Then I could fold it away as well. So that's really nice for your production areas if you need some extra room or just ease of accessing this printer, right? No tools required. This is our curing unit right here. So printing zone, curing zone. On the R2000, we have 6 modules here. This module is, and maybe it's about 18 inches in length. Inside of this module, this literally can lift up. There's 2 hinges, and inside there are 2 of these convection heaters in each module. And this is a fan, and it is a coil, right? So this is your temperature and airflow in your curing area, all automated, all tied in. Those settings are tied into your OMS. It knows just how much heat is required to cure the ink onto your substrate. They all work independently of each other. So if I was just printing, of course, a small board on this side, the modules on that end of the cure would not even engage. We also have a height. So there's a curing height that comes into play. That's in your OMS. Again, all automated. You know, we could print up to 2 inches thick. Fernando had mentioned that. So the beam and the curing unit, everything moves in sequence depending on the thickness of that media and how it needs to be printed and cured. So it's really, really amazing automation. We do have a helper here. This is a roller that I could just drop down. So if people sometimes use this to have the media continue to exit. So it's not just like sitting here, you know, like a board, or maybe if it has a little curl to it, like a B flute would, this will just hold it flat down to the belt to kick it out. This is always at the right height as well, because it rides along with your curing unit. A couple more things that are simple but really effective and powerful is that right here on the console, I have these 2 mechanical buttons to manage my belt. I have 2 here. I have 2 on the input side as well. So simply hitting the button, I could back that media up if I want to, or I could forward it as well. This is really powerful because I can start printing at the leading edge of my material if the material allows it. If it's not curled up, if it's laying flat. The way that works is during the loading process for flexible, the printer automatically brings it in, measures it, that's cool. You know, then it's sitting here, the edge is sitting in this random spot. Well, I could see in here clearly in this window. I could use this button and I could back this up to exactly where I want to start printing. Or if I have some defective media, I could also forward it. Oh, I like it right there. I could turn right here and hit print. Done, right? So if you're doing, that way you can start printing to the leading edge of your material, and you could also then attach it to your take-up. So people do ask that, can I start printing at the lead before I attach to the take-up? Of course you can. You do not have to be roll-to-roll in order to print with this printer. Probably one of the last things I'll say here is that this, again, 2 mechanical buttons, this will rotate my take-up spindle forward or reverse, depending on what I'm doing with this media post-print. Couldn't be easier. Again, access to everything. No ink under my fingernails. So that concludes my portion of this. I'll send it back to Fernando and or Bob. We'll let them fight it out.
Bob, I think we can open it for Q&A at this point. You can also unmute your mics, or if you're muted, you could press the space bar, hold it down, and that will unmute your microphone as well. So any questions regarding our technology, any applications, or anything that we've covered so far?
Thanks a lot, Dan and Fernando. That was absolutely awesome. Great information. I'm hopeful that everyone now has a much better understanding of the innovation provided by the R series technology. And hopefully you can see where it might possibly impact your business. Before we open up for questions here, I'd just like to give you, talk a little bit about IT Supplies. As many of you might know, IT Supplies is a privately owned, value-added reseller, and we're a premier partner for HP, based about 20 minutes from O'Hare Airport in the suburbs of Chicago. We've got about a 3,000 square foot demo facility. The picture behind me actually shows our 64-inch R1000 Plus that we demo in our facility. And at the risk of sounding too much like a sales guy, that demo unit is available for sale right now. So don't hesitate to give us a call to discuss it. At any given time in the demo facility, we typically have about 15 printers or so covering a variety of technologies, from aqueous to four-letter word, EcoCell, latex and dye sub, ranging from narrow format all the way up through the 64-inch R. Plus, we sell and support the 10-foot wide HP 1500 roll-to-roll latex production machine. We cover applications from DTG to dye sub to latex, all of the ancillary equipment like rips and finishing and cutting technologies to support full turnkey solutions. We've got 6 experienced technicians that travel across the country and do installations and trainings. And we sell and we have a staff of G7 certified color specialists that can help with any high-end color application. We like to say we have everything to help you with the perfect print, including ink and substrates for many of the applications that you all print every day. And we would welcome the opportunity to work with you. More than anything, we pride ourselves in being consultative in our sales approach and are most concerned about providing excellent service and developing a long-term partnership with our customers, where we provide real value. We're not just another supplier. In addition, we're posting daily videos on our YouTube channel to help with many of your commonly asked questions. So please contact your IT Supplies sales rep for any assistance you might need. If you don't know how to contact your rep, you can call 800-771-9665 and ask for a commercial sales specialist. Our website address is www.itsupplies.com. You can always connect with me and I'll get you pointed in the right direction within IT. You have my contact information from the email that I sent you with the Zoom link for this event today. My email is brychel@itsupplies.com. My phone number, 847-989-0325. Why don't we go ahead and read through some of the questions on the chat. You guys see any?
I don't see any. I don't see any questions. But you're welcome to unmute if you would like.
There's a couple things I'd like you guys, if you guys could address a couple of things that I don't think we covered in enough detail. Really, one of the main things is what are the durability specs of latex as it relates to light fastness and abrasion resistance? What do you guys normally tell people?
What is the light fastness, did you say? I'm sorry, Bob?
Yeah, light fastness and abrasion resistance of output coming off the R.
Well, so like we're 3-year outdoor, unlaminated. As far as our abrasion, then that is, again, the same thing, 3-year outdoor, but we also, that's where the top coat or the overcoat comes into play. So if you have a situation that you want to up that overcoat, I know that Fernando already covered that, so you can increase your overcoat if for that added durability, if it calls for it, if your product calls for it.
Okay, thank you. Something else, I know there's a few folks on the call today that if they purchased an R solution would be in need of finding a candidate to actually run production on the machine. Can you talk a little bit about what you think those qualifications, as they're looking for a person to fill that role, what does that kind of look like? Is it more of a mechanical type person or more of a software and design and application savvy person? Or what should they really be looking for?
So, of course, it's going to depend on the duties that you're calling on. You know what the job duties will be for that particular person, right? Because someone can have a shop where they're just running the printer only. You could have another shop where maybe that person is running the rip and the printer. So with that in mind, I'll just talk about the printer itself. The printer is, I mean, all you need is a person who wants to work. So that's going to be the tough one today. But anyway, it's so intuitive. It is so intuitive. It is like the iPhone of printers. I've just been doing this way too long. And that's the part I almost can't overemphasize, is that because everything you have access to everything through that, through the internal print server, but also through any of these doors I can open up and have full access to it. I don't have a tool set when I'm to use this thing to print, right? So I've had people in demos running this by the end of that day, that demo day, they were running it. People who have never saw it before, they came to see it, and they might bring an operator with them, and varying degrees of experience, of course, but they didn't know what this was. And it steps you through. You probably saw some of the animations that show up on the IPS when we were highlighting that. It's the same thing with maintenances. It walks you through it. The printer will move out of your way if a maintenance, we need to change out this certain pad right here. You say, go ahead and do it. Everything moves over and opens up, and you change it and it closes. So it's amazing. I mean, it is very, very easy to operate from, if you're just talking about an operator. So I'm not talking about design and rip. So just find somebody who's eager and has a good attitude, and you're off to the races.
Perfect. Is there anybody else have any questions out there, or should we tie this thing up?
You guys covered it.
Go right ahead.
So you guys covered it. You did a great job.
Awesome. Well, thanks. That concludes our meeting between HP and IT Supplies. So Dan and Fernando, thanks again. To all of you who attended today, we really appreciate all the time that you gave us today. Hopefully you're walking away with a really good sense of what this piece of equipment can do for you.
Thank you for watching our video. Don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any questions about any of the videos that you see here on our YouTube channel, call in to a commercial sales specialist at 800-771-9665. We're here to help.